Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Let's talk about some core foods that we can stockpile so that we can be ready for emergencies. We know that we want to have food on hand. We want to have the basic foods, nutritionally sound foods, and we want to have some protein-dense foods as well. At the beginning of any emergency situation, you want to be able to have foods that require almost no preparation. We know that the foundations are beans and rice, dried foods, plenty of water, things like that. However, in an emergency situation, you're not going to want to start soaking and cooking. You want to have foods on hand that you can just open and eat and get going and figure out what to do next. It's nice to have the beans and rice and plenty of water, of course, but that shouldn't be the first food you reach for in an emergency situation. The first core food you might want to reach for would be protein, which could be as simple as a can of meat, a can of beans, a jar of peanut butter. Those are going to be full of protein, simple to open and eat, and get you going, full of protein, calories, and energy. Something to think about is one of the shortages that we're hearing about is canned tuna. Tuna has been overfished. It's becoming harder to get. They're also making harvest restrictions. So if canned tuna is a meat that you like, you might want to check your stockpile and see if you need to add to it so that you have enough going forward. The next core food would be produce. We love having the freshest produce on hand, fresh fruits and vegetables, but we know that they just don't last. So we need to find a way to have those fruits and vegetables in ways that can last in our pantry. So you might want to reach for some cans of fruits and vegetables, perhaps some frozen fruits and vegetables. Those are very handy as well. And then it's always nice to think about some of the dried varieties like raisins, apricots. There's all different kinds of dried and even dehydrated fruits and vegetables that we can have so that we have those core ingredients when we need them. Sometimes we think about those fruits and vegetables when we think about some of the drink mixes. Do you remember how you used to be able to get big containers of lemonade, iced tea, and some of these little stir-in packets that go easily into water bottles? And I like the ones that include things like vitamin C and not so much sugar. Plus, we like the electrolyte mixes as well. And one of the reasons that the powdered drink mixes are becoming less available is because people are becoming, I want easy, grab and go. I want to grab the pre-mixed iced tea, the pre-mixed in a bottle to go lemonade and Powerades and things like that, Gatorade. So it's becoming harder to get the powders that we want, which we might like to have on hand because we can stir them into our own water. Not only does it save money to stir it into your own water, but then you're not tossing into the trash and recycling all of those to-go containers. We can only store so much water. We don't want to take up all of our shelf space with bottles of drinks when we could have powders and we could mix them into our own water and use our reusable water bottles and cups and things like that. So if powdered drink mixes are something that you enjoy, check out the supply that you have already and see if that's something that you need to add to it and if the varieties that you like are still available. The next core food would be grains. We can get cereal, we can get pasta, crackers. There's all kinds of granola bars that we have the grab and go, easy to open and eat grains that we can have in our stockpile. We can also find noodle mixes, rice mixes, things from Knorr, Pastaroni, Zatarans. There's all kinds of those that just require a little bit of cooking. One of the things to be aware of if you're concerned with having enough grains and maybe even preparing your own bread is that there are shortages in yeast. So one of the ways to combat having a problem sourcing yeast is to get some and store it in the freezer. It can last for a very long time, and it might be a time that you want to think about starting up a sourdough starter. That can last. Sourdough starters are so simple. You just feed it a little bit of flour, add a little water, stir it around. Then you have a constantly growing. It's a source that you can bake bread, pancakes, biscuits, muffins. There's all kinds of things that you can make with sourdough. Then you have the ingredient that would be the alive yeast in your baking supplies. Our sourdough starter even has a name of Doughin, and I have dehydrated some of it before because then you can rehydrate it. If, say, you go away and you on vacation, you don't have time to take care of it, Or, for example, my son's house burned down a number of years ago, and his dough was destroyed. So we can still have other people in our family that have some. Then we have some dehydrated. You can rehydrate your sourdough starter and then get it going again. So it's something that can really be a lifesaver in all kinds of situations. So one of the core ingredients to think about is yeast or a sourdough starter. Something that makes our food just taste so much better in just simple ways is adding in basic spices and seasonings and seasoning mixes. Even things like broth and bouillon. You can get some bouillon cubes or powder. Then you have the options of vegetable, chicken, or beef broth that you can make the broth and stir in your rice, your basic noodles, whatever, and make those foods taste better. Then look also over your basic seasonings and spices, whether they're mixes like ranch mix or just basics like onion. There are several that you want to have on hand. So look over what's in your spice rack, see if you have some extras to put aside, and have those basic core ingredients so that you can make your meals taste better for not a lot of ingredients or a lot of money. Spices and seasonings are becoming harder to source because of import challenges, not only from the tariffs, but the shipping shutdowns and the blockades and things from in foreign lands. We don't need to even go into where all that's going on because most of you look at the news and you know what I'm talking about. So having those varieties on hand might be something that you want to think about and pick up one or two as you shop. Then be mindful of the essentials of water, can openers, paper products such as paper plates, cups, bowls, napkins, so that if you have a water problem, that you still have a way that you can serve your meals, and then you have basic water on hand that you can prepare your meals, wash your hands, and do a little bit of cooking if you need to have that extra water on hand. No one can expect to achieve every prepping goal immediately, but if you break it down into small steps, you do little bits at a time. Add a can of food, add a package of pasta, add a bag of sugar, because sugar is also one of those things that they're thinking might be shortages ahead, so it's something to think about when you're adding to your stockpile. Look over these core emergency foods and make sure that you have plenty. We don't know what the future holds, but we certainly know prices are going up, and some of our favorite types of foods are just not available anymore. All you have to do is go on the soup aisle to see. Yes, there's still cans of soup, but maybe the varieties you like aren't even available anymore, and they just spread out more and more of the same one. You might be able to find 1,000 cans of chicken noodle soup, but you can't find other types of varieties you want. And if all that you want is the chicken noodle soup, I guess that works for you. But most of us would like to have more of a variety of our foods in our pantry. Let us know in the comments below what core foods are you adding into your stockpile, and maybe give us some tips and ideas of recipe meal ideas so that we can make sure that we use, rotate, and replace those foods so that we have a fresh supply going forward. If you shop on Amazon, if you click on my link in the description box before you order, it doesn't cost you anymore, and it provides a little bit of revenue that helps support my channel. I hope you'll like my video, share it, please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.